You don't feel fake because you lie. You feel fake because you don't know which version of you is real. Around one group, you're confident. Around another, you're quiet. With some people, you laugh louder than you want to. With others, you shrink. And afterward, when you're alone, there's this quiet question. If I act differently with everyone, who am I actually? You replay conversations in your head, the joke you told that didn't feel like you, the opinion you agreed with just to keep things smooth, the story you exaggerated to seem more interesting. It's subtle, but it builds. Over time, you start feeling like a social chameleon, blending in everywhere, belonging nowhere. This doesn't just affect conversations, it affects decisions. You choose careers that feel acceptable. You soften opinions that might create tension. You hesitate to share real preferences. And slowly, your identity starts to feel negotiable. Psychology calls this self-monitoring. Some people naturally scan social environments and adjust their behavior to fit. High self-monitors are excellent at reading cues, tone shifts, micro-expressions, power dynamics. It looks like social intelligence, but internally it can feel like fragmentation. Because when you adapt constantly, your brain stops anchoring to a stable internal reference, and that's where the confusion begins. But here's what's important. You're not fake, you're adaptive. At some point, your nervous system learned that safety depends on fitting in. Maybe approval was conditional, maybe conflict felt dangerous, maybe being too much led to rejection. So your brain built a strategy. Adjust first, secure belonging, question yourself later. That strategy worked. It protected you. The problem isn't that you adapt, the problem is that you never return to center. And to understand that, we need to look at what your brain is actually doing. Think of your brain as running two systems. One is your social radar. This system involves areas like the medial prefrontal cortex and temporoparietal junction, regions responsible for perspective taking and predicting others' reactions. It constantly asks, how am I being perceived? What response will keep me accepted? The second system is your internal compass. This involves self-referential processing networks, especially the default mode network, which help you reflect on your own values, preferences, and identity. In balanced functioning, these systems take turns. You adjust socially, then you recalibrate internally. But if your environment trained you to prioritize safety over authenticity, your social radar becomes overactive. It's like driving with the steering wheel locked toward other people's expectations. You move, but not necessarily where you want to go. Here's the mental model. Your personality isn't a mask, it's a home base. Adaptation is visiting other rooms. Identity is knowing where you live. If you never return home, every room starts to feel like a performance. So how do you come back? Not by forcing yourself to be real, but by retraining the balance between radar and compass. First, practice post-interaction anchoring. After social situations, ask one question: what did I actually feel in that moment? This activates reflective processing in the default mode network. It shifts attention inward. For example, after agreeing with someone's opinion, pause later and ask, did I agree because I believed it or because it felt easier? That small check-in rebuilds internal reference. Second, make low-stakes authenticity reps. Behavioral psychology shows that identity stabilizes through repeated small actions. Start with tiny disclosures. I actually don't like horror movies. I prefer staying in. Small truth statements. Each one teaches your brain that authenticity does not equal danger. And when nothing catastrophic happens, your threat system updates. Third, separate adaptation from approval. Before entering social settings, set one internal anchor. It could be a value, honesty, or a preference. Speak slower. This primes your prefrontal cortex with intention before the social radar activates. It's like setting a GPS before traffic starts influencing you. You can still adapt, but you won't drift as easily. Fourth, notice exhaustion. Chronic self-adjustment is cognitively expensive. If you leave interactions feeling unusually drained, that's data, not weakness. Your brain is signaling overcorrection. Use that signal to recalibrate next time, not by withdrawing completely, but by adjusting 1% less. Over time, that 1% compounds, and something subtle happens. The gap between your alone self and your social self starts shrinking. You still adapt, but you don't disappear. Here's what ties it all together. You don't feel fake because you lack identity. You feel fake because your safety system overpowered your authenticity system. The goal isn't to stop adapting, it's to remember where home is, to visit other rooms without moving out. And maybe the next time you leave a conversation and that quiet question appears, "Who am I actually?" you'll have a clearer answer. Not loud, not dramatic, just steady. You are the one who can adapt and still come back to yourself.